Hello everybody, welcome to another filming of Esoteric Worldviews. Today I'm going to be discussing the topic of Palestinians and Jews, something that is very sensitive. People are very opinionated about it. There's lots of material on it on YouTube and the rest of the internet, because it's one of those things that really captures people's attention because of the nature of how awful the situation really is over there, and how awful that it's been for so long. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, well they've been fighting over the land forever and whatever. They'll just be fighting for all eternity." That's just not the truth. Prior to the war, the invasion of 1947, when Israelis somehow managed to get together and invade a whole country, what the hell? As if people just come together somehow and they decide to invade a country. Something fishy was going on with that whole thing. The decision to invade Palestine. Who the hell made that kind of decision? I remember reading somewhere it's some kind of international Zionist league or something like this. That smells very fishy. It smells like some kind of secret society operation going on there. But still, who the hell made that kind of decision? It's so strange because their reasoning was that they needed a homeland for the Jews so that they wouldn't get killed like they did in World War II. So they went and they did the same thing to the Palestinians, and somehow it's okay. But anyway, their invasion itself was sketch, but before that, Palestinians and Jews didn't actually fight each other. They weren't killing each other. They lived side by side. I remember some Jewish person or Palestinian person was saying that they remember how their grandma was talking about how that Arabs' kids would play with the Jewish kids, and the kids would stay with the Arab family, and the kids would stay with the Jewish family. They would be like babysitting each other's kids. It was that level of cooperation and love, I'm sure, because they're both members of the same monotheistic Judeo-Christian religion. Muslims and Christians and Jews, it's all the same thing, really. It truly is. They're all the same. One is based off the other, which is based off the other. And they're all in the same area, and they all talk about the same thing. I disagree with how people call them the three major religions or whatnot, because really Buddhism and Hinduism amount to about 2 billion people. So I'd say that those are pretty major. And these religions, Buddhism and Hinduism, actually talk about a practical means to enlightenment instead of just preaching about morals. But anyway, that'll be for another video. So yeah, people say that they've been fighting over it for so long, but really not the Palestinians and the Jews in general, but all different kinds of nations. Napoleon invaded Palestine. We have the Romans in Palestine, of course. We have, the British. So many different nations. The Greeks, the Turks. So many different nations have fought over Palestine. That I suppose that the Jews just thought that people would accept if they invaded this sovereign land. It was under the British Mandate of Palestine, because before that, when it was in the Ottoman Empire, it didn't need to have its own state and official bordering. That's how bounder and border. That's how it was in the Arab countries. They didn't call themselves Uzbeks, and these ones were called Tajikistan, and this one was called Saudi, and this one was called Yemeni, and all this stuff. No, they had one big grouping, the Ottoman Empire, and they didn't have a need for all that stuff. They could go freely wherever they went, But the thing is that the Palestinians, the Philistines mentioned in the Bible, are a group of ancient Canaanites, settlers that have been there for such a long time. You know, they were there while the Jews were there, before the Jews were there, and during when the Jews were there. The Canaanites were there. Okay? The Jews who entered into Israel supposedly when they had the exodus out of Egypt, they had to go and set up their own independent city-state. They took that from the Canaanites though. The Canaanites were already there in Judea. So whose is it? They both have a claim to it. You know, they both have a legitimate claim to the area. But the problem is that the Jews are unified by a verse in the Old Testament, or wherever the hell they're getting it from. I mean, it might be the Torah. I don't know where they're getting this verse from. I've never went and looked it up. That this land, the land of Israel, is given to the Jews forever and ever, or whatever it says. You know, the Bible has been redacted so many times by nefarious hands, by secret hands. Just go look up the Council of Nicaea. You know, this little organization came together and butchered Gnosticism. They destroyed Gnosticism and eradicated it from Christianity. Gnosticism, which is a very sophisticated understanding of gnosis, which means direct knowledge of the nature of creation and the universe. So anyway, go look up this Council of Nicaea. It's a horror story. Anyway, anything that you find in the Bible, in the Quran, in wherever it is, the Torah, it can be misinterpreted. You don't have to start taking everything word for word here and using that as your Bible. Rather, it's meant to paint a picture so that you can integrate your understanding. And everything can be interpreted in many different ways. I mean, at different levels of your consciousness, when you read different books, you'll definitely take different experiences from them. I've done this, I mean, many times. I've gone back and reread a book, and it's been completely different to me when I read it again. You can do this with the Emerald Tablets. Forever, you know, the Emerald Tablets, I remember somebody was saying, are designed to be like that, in that you can take many different things from them by judging on depending on your level of consciousness, how much that you've been reading other books like this and already understand what they're talking about versus how much you're not aware. But anyway. So this claim that the Jews have on the land is just nonsense in my opinion. You know, similar to the way that the Muslims have misinterpreted the term jihad, which is really a war against the ego, to mean a war against infidels, to suit their own purposes. You know, it bugs me how much that the Jews are so stuck on that little part of the Bible which claims that they have a right to be there. Of course they have to be stuck there. All the atrocities that they committed, they have to be stuck in that delusion that they're meant to be there. Look at the Jews' skin tone, their skin color. It's you know, light, it's white. They're not exactly Middle Eastern, you know? That's because the white Jews that we see are actually Khazarian Jews from Ukraine, the area between Russia and Ukraine, the Caspian and the Black Sea. They're Khazarian Jews, 80% of them. The Sephardic Jews, the ones from Northern Africa and Palestine, make up 20% of the Jewish population. And I remember somewhere that I was reading a report on how Sephardic children, the dark-skinned children, are being killed off in Israel. I don't know. Go look it up yourself. But it makes sense, you know. This secret cabal inside of Judaism that I believe exists. I don't know that it exists. I'll postulate